First off, saying nothing would be the worst thing that Steve Cohen could do in this scenario, because that signals to fans that either you're not watching or you don't care, or some combination of both. I liked what he said, because if you're trying to build something sustainable that can win year in and year out, the last thing you want to do is make your moves based on reaction and the goings of the season, rather than a complete product of a 6-month season. Now, if the Mets end this season and they're a 75-win team and they miss the playoffs by a long shot, there are changes to be made. But, we saw it the last 2 seasons from our own division rivals in the Phillies and the Braves, that things can really flip on a dime when a team gets all their cylinders correct and can start firing. I don't know if that's going to happen for the Mets. I can't predict the future, but it does start with stringing together the wins that you should be getting and then beating on the bad teams. But the Mets to start doing that. Otherwise, this trade deadline is going to answer a lot of the questions that Mets fans have, whether it's playing the kids full time, getting rid of the veterans that aren't, performing at that level, or sticking with those guys because they were the proven success of last year during the regular season that got us to October in the first place. So the Mets have a lot of hard questions, and I think Steve Cohen's quotes gave some comfort, but at the same time, there's only so much comfort you can give when you're spiraling like this in June.
I appreciate his patience, because I think a lot of people had this thought of Steve Cohen coming in that he was going to be like a George Steinbrenner of sorts, that was just going to outspend everyone, which he has. And then when things, if they're not going right, he's just going to make wholesale changes and kind of drop the hammer a bit. But that's clearly not the way he is. And I think Mets fans should take some form of solace in that. I know it's kind of tough. Like you talked about silver linings earlier. It's tough to find silver linings when the team is playing losing baseball, but
Right.
It's something that you could look ahead to and say, I think Steve Cohen is going to run this organization the way we have always wanted the Mets to be run. Now it's just a matter of winning baseball games. So, no, I think overall, I think it was a good sign for Buck Showalter, a good sign for Billy Epler. So if those guys ever had some concern about their job security, maybe that's something that alleviated them, and they can maybe relax a little bit and try to just bring this thing back around to the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean, the Steinbrenner-esque, motif of the general manager or owner or what have you maybe worked 3 decades ago, but it's not going to work now. Teams have learned how to succeed without spending all that money. So it's not just about how much money you spend and who you fire and put in charge. It's about how you maneuver the goings of a season and how much leash you give to these guys to give them a chance to succeed. With that being said, the seat should be hot under guys like Epler and Showalter, who have something to prove this season. Showalter with his playoff woes and Epler with his trade deadline woes. Both those can be rectified this season, but if both go wrong again, I'm not totally shocked if both those guys aren't in those positions at the end of this year.